What is up, boys? My name is Berate from Mind Studios, and welcome to the second episode of how to make a sprite-based two-dimensional fighting game in Universal Fighting Engine 2. This video will simply be going over how to make a move, an attack. Nothing too crazy, nothing too complicated. This attack won't have a projectile. This attack won't have any special properties to it like armor or pass-through or anything. This is just simply how to make a move with the custom hitboxes. If you haven't seen the first video in this series, please go back and watch that. But if you have, we're just going to start right where we left off before. So in the last episode, we made a custom hitbox. I made this knee move right here. And if I turn on the preview here, you'll see that we made this knee move like that. The knee goes up. The hitbox is active for a second. And Hoedown knees him. Well, this is basically how to actually turn this hitbox into a real move. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our moves folder. Again, you can put this move anywhere. I just like to keep myself a bit organized, especially because this is a fully fledged character at this point. And we're going to go create, UFE, and then move file. And then the move editor will pop up like this, but I already have the move editor sat right here, and then we can just get rid of this preview because the move editor already has a preview. Now there is going to be a new move file somewhere in here, and we're just going to name this to Hoedown knee, because that's the name of the move. Then we're just going to press this button here with the move selected called use file name, and that'll automatically name it to what the file is named to. We can add a move description here. I'm not going to do that because I haven't done that for all of my other moves. However, just know that this is a thing that can happen. So we're going to go to the behavior tab here first. And this is basically where you're going to get all of your parameters for the move, right? This is a 60 frames per second game, so we're just going to keep this the same. Ignore gravity means that if you are in the air while doing this move, it'll leave you floating. This isn't an air move. This is a grounded move, so we don't have to worry about this. Ignore ground friction. Self-explanatory. Cancel move on landing. This is for air moves. This basically makes it so that if you land while doing the move, then the move won't come out, but this is a grounded move, so you're not going to be in the air while doing this move. Autocorrect rotation. We're going to check this on just because this is a nice thing to have. Sometimes when you do a move and your opponent jumps over you, then the rotation will be a little bit interesting. So this just automatically fixes that. This is an execution cooldown. This makes it so that you have a cooldown on when you can do this move. We're not going to have a cooldown on this one since this is just a normal move. This isn't any sort of special move. And then finisher. This basically gives it a special property that this move is a move that you can do after the finish him screen, which this game doesn't have a finish him screen, but if you want a finish him screen, you'd go to your global config and you'd make it so that it's like a Mortal Kombat style finish him, and it's like you can do that. So this move isn't a finisher, obviously this is a normal move. Coming over to animation here, we're going to get the hitbox definition type, and we're going to change it from auto map to custom. And then you'll notice that there's two things here. There's the animation clip and the custom hitboxes. We're going to go over to our hitboxes folder. Again, you can throw this anywhere, but I like to keep it organized. And we're going to go and we're going to find our Hoedown knee animation and drag and drop this into custom hitboxes. And as you can see, it automatically gets the animation clip from this, so we don't have to do it anymore. But if it didn't, you just press refresh. Wrap mode is fine. Keep everything default here. All the different wrap modes are basically just if you want the animation to loop at all. This, is good for like taunts and stuff, but this isn't a taunt. This is just a normal move. And then disable head look. Head look doesn't matter because we are using sprites, so there's no head bone. And this is just basically all of your animation parameters, right? But now we're going to go to the character prefab here, and we're going to put our character's prefab right here. Now what this will do is this will allow us to actually preview the animation. As you'll notice that it's not visible right now, but that's just because it's rotated 90 degrees. But if we set this to 0, it'll unrotate it. And now we can get our animation preview within the move editor with our hitboxes and everything right here, and we can scrub through. There's the smooth preview option, but this works better for 3D models. Since we're working with sprites here and all the frames are defined and there's no in-between frames like there would be with a 3D model, there's no interpolation, there's no inverse kinematics, we can just have it be like this. Next, we're going to go to presentation. This is entirely just flashy stuff. This is, let's say you want a sound effect to play when you do this move. Let's say you want a particle effect, or let's say you want a media overlay, or a cinematic, or you want this move to have slow motion, or you want text to pop up with this move. You want certain body parts to go away. You want this to change its sorting layer, so basically it'll appear above or below stuff, right? We're not going to worry about any of this. This has nothing to do with actually making the move functional. When we go to future tutorials and I tell you, you know, sort of the game theory of how to make moves punchy, how to tell your player that some moves are stronger than others, how to make moves feel correctly, that's we're gonna get into all this. But right now, the big three that we're gonna be focusing on is hit options, player inputs, play conditions, meter adjustments. I know I said 3, but it's really gonna be 4. All these other ones are just extra funkies that'll happen, you know, when stuff happens. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's just go to the most important of the 3, which is the hit options. This is actually how you can tell the game to apply the hit. So we're going to do a new hit. Now, what you will notice here is we have this hitbox here. Now, the best thing about using custom hitboxes is you don't need to set any of this. You don't need to set the position of the hitbox. You don't do anything. You did that all before. So all you have to do is add a new hurt box here and then set the hurt box to the same name as what's in the hitbox editor. So if I turn on the preview in the hitbox editor, we'll see that this white thing right here, which is our hitbox, is named new hitbox. We don't want that. So we're actually just going to rename this quickly to Hurtbox. Now, if we go back to our move editor, we'll see that we now can set it to what we named as our Hurtbox. You can name this anything, by the way. It doesn't need to be named Hurtbox, but again, I like to keep myself a bit organized. So now, what you'll notice is if I scrub through the animation here, you'll see that our little hitbox here has turned blue. That means that it is turned from a no collider, like we have here, to an actual hitbox that the game will register a hit from. And remember, if this hitbox collides with your opponent's hurt box, that means that it will apply damage, hit, stun, however. But how much damage do we want this to apply? And how much hit stun do we want this to apply? We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about the opponent collision filters. This is in which states can this move hit your opponent. Do you want this to only be able to hit your opponent if they're crouching? You would uncheck all these. Do you want this to be able to hit your opponent everywhere but in the air? You can do that. For the sake of this, I am going to leave all these good except for down. We do not want this to hit our opponent when they're knocked down because we're making a 2D fighter here. We're not making Tekken. Right? If you're making a 3D fighter, this is going to be your best friend because a lot of 3D fighters do allow you to hit your opponent while they're on the ground, or called OTG. There might be some OTG moves later, but this is definitely not considered to be, well, it'd be a good OTG move. Possible sides. This makes it so that you can only do a certain move when you're on a certain side of the screen. This is just a normal attack, so we're just not going to worry about that. Then, this is where we can get into a bit more advanced things. Instead of it being basic, like it only hits your opponent if they're standing or something, we can make it even down to this will only hit your opponent if your opponent throws out this certain move or they're doing this certain thing. You can get very in-depth with it, but this is just a normal move. So we don't have to get into any of the craziness here. Hit reaction. This is basically going to say which hit reaction animation your opponent will have. So if you go to your character setup here, and I click on hoedown, and then we go to move sets, and we go to his move set right here, you will see that under basic moves, under standard animations, we will have all of the animations that'll play when he gets hit, when he's getting juggled, etc. And this just says which of those animations this move will trigger. Because obviously, if I'm kneeing someone in the gut, I wouldn't want them to, you know, have their head fly back or something like they got hit in the head. This is just a quality of life thing. Then we can have this be a light, medium, or a heavy. I'll have this be a medium because this is a bit of a knee animation. Now, these next options, force grounded, force stand, this is for like restands. I do want this to stagger the opponent. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then, yeah, fixed rotation, reset hit animation, great. The block condition here is also very important. we can have this be a mid, which will hit your opponent if they are blocking low or blocking high or anything. It'll just hit them mid. We can have it be a high move, which means that it will hit them overhead, which means that if they're blocking low, it'll smack them in the face. Or we can have it hit low. But let's say if they're blocking high, then it'll hit them low. We want this move to hit mid. This move isn't really super fancy. It's just a mid-knee move. It's very simple. We can choose this if we want it to break armor. We can have it be a continuous hit if it's like a rapid punch, but we're not going to worry about any of that. Let's talk about meter adjustments. This is how you actually apply the damage to your opponent. So, on hit, we're going to do a new meter adjustment. The target meter is their life bar. The life adjustment type is going to be damage. You can have this move heal your opponent as well if you so choose. Not sure why you'd want to do that, but again, UFE gives you so many options on customization for these moves. It's actually insane. The target character is the opponent, obviously. And then this is where we get to choose our damage. I like to do my damage in terms of percentages. That keeps it consistent across, you know, all the characters, especially if all the characters have the same amount of health, or we can have it be actual points. I'm going to keep it as percentage for now, just to, you know, make my life a tiny bit easier. And this mid move, it's not going to do a crazy amount of damage. Let's say it'll do a good 5 damage. Just 5% of their health gone if they hit this. This does damage over time, clear previous damage over time. We can make it so that the hit doesn't kill, blah, blah, blah. That's just all the other options. We don't have to worry about any of this, because of course we want this hit to kill them if they're, you know, below 5 HP and you hit them. Damage scaling. Damage scaling basically goes over if you hit this move repeatedly in a combo, how low of a damage will it go? Right now it does 5 damage, but it can go as low as 1 damage with the damage scaling. We can make it so that the damage scaling is nothing by unchecking this. We can make it so that the damage scaling is a little bit more forgiving by having it set to something as 4. I'm going to just keep it as 1, just because I do want this move to have a bit of scaling. On block, this is where you can make it so that there's chip damage on block. Same idea as before, but instead you're just having it on block. I'm not going to do that, because for my game's purposes, I don't really want there to be damage on block, but you get the idea. On parry, again, if you can have a parry mechanic set up in Universal Fighting Engine. This one, we're probably not going to have a parry mechanic, because this is going to be a bit of a more traditional 2D fighter, not anything sort of like Street Fighter Third Strike, but you could have it have different reactions on parry. You can have it, you know, damage to the parry, whatever you want. Then, of course, on armored hit, this basically makes it so that if your opponent did some armor, and you hit them through their armor, how much damage would you want it to apply on the armor? In this case, I will actually have it apply some damage, so we're just going to do a little bit of a copy here. New meter adjustment, paste, and then remove this. So then basically I want it to do the same damage on hit as it would on an armored hit. Hit stun. This is where we can actually get into the meat and potatoes of the hit stun. Is it plus on block? Is it minus on block? How much hit advantage do you have when it actually hits your opponent, etc.? We're going to go by frame advantage here. If you're making a competitive 2D fighter, it is very good to know your frame advantage, and the Universal Fighting Engine has an ability to actually have it all calculated out for you. So, generally speaking, and this is going to go into a little bit of game balance here, a mid-hitting move like this, you do not want it to be plus on block. This is just a standard, this is just a standard thing across all fighting games. Generally speaking, if a move hits mid and it comes out fast, like 9 frames or something, you do not want it to be plus. Because then people will just be able to loop the mid over and over and over, and it's going to be very hard to get out of it. It's just going to be annoying, even for a very rush-down heavy character like Hoedown here is for my game. It's not really going to be the greatest idea to have your mid-hitting move that's meant to check people ducking or mashing or whatever to be plus. So the frame advantage on block, we're going to make this like -4 or something. Now, something to realize is that there is a concept in fighting games called the magic number. This basically means what is everyone's fastest option. And if you know anything about frame data or frame advantage, if something is more minus than the magic number, in this case my magic number is -7, then that means that move is unsafe on block. That means that move is punishable on block, right? So because every single character's fastest move in this game is -7, that means that if I have this anywhere below -7, the move will be unsafe on block, and then he'll be able to get punished for throwing out this move. I don't want that. I want this to be a safe mid, I just don't want it to be plus. So if you throw out this move and it gets blocked, it won't be your turn anymore, but you're not going to get punished for it, you just have to block. So we're going to make this a nice clean -5. -6, -5, somewhere there. We could really push it and make it -7, but then there would be like 1-frame situations where you could punish this on a 1-frame link. So I'm just going to make it impossible to punish, but we're still going to lose your turn. Frame advantage on hit. How much advantage do I want this to have if it actually hits the opponent? Well, I would want this to be pretty good on hit, because if this move hits my opponent, I would like to combo off of it. So we're going to make it so that the hit advantage is 20, just like this. Force options is basically if you want this move to have any pushback, both for yourself and your opponent. I don't think I want any pushback on this move. Stage reactions, will it ground bounce, will it corner push? Pull-in options, this is basically where you can get moves like Scorpion Spear, where you can pull your opponent in, or you can pull yourself towards your opponent. We don't want that for this move. And then override events on hit. This will basically make it so that, oh, well, what if you don't want your opponent to have a hit reaction if this move hits? Well, that's where you can get all this. Again, override juggle weight over all this. You can read through this, but we don't need any of those for this move. This is a very simple move. Blockable area. This is going to be very important as well. We want the blockable area of this move to also be on the hurt box. Now we're going to go on to arguably the second most important piece of this, which is the player inputs. How will your player get this move out? What button do they have to press to get this move out? Well, I'm going to have this be a bit of a button sequence of button execution. I want this to be a forward 3. Or forward A if you're on Xbox, or forward X if you're on PlayStation. I want the player to have to hold forward and then also press this. I'm going to allow input leniency here just for this, and we're going to have it be forward. Then a button execution. I have it set to button 4 because I'm using rewired for this just to make everything a little bit easier for myself. So it's going to be forward 4, or forward button 4, which is 3 if you're using NetherRealm Studios notation, or, you know, X or A. Either way, button 4. Now that we're in game, we're just going to walk up, we're going to press forward, and then 3. And look at that. There's that mid-hit move. And the hit stun is good. I can combo off of it. But anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned into the series to know how to make the rest of a 2D fighting game and what else it needs to be done. Anyways, with all that being said, this has been Sprite. Remember to brush your teeth. Bye-bye.